Hey, hi all. Welcome back to the channel again. Today we are going to discuss about services and dependency injection. So let's learn about the dependency injection first, how it's work and what is mean by that. In Angular, the dependency injection is nothing but a fundamental design pattern where a class requests some dependencies from external sources, right? Whatever a class requires, it actually requests it from external resources, um, you know to reuse certain code instead of creating the same code on its own, right? And then Angular actually fulfills whatever requirements made by a particular component, right? Whatever request made by a particular components by dependency injections. So whatever dependencies that particular class has requested, Angular injects those dependencies into that class so that that class could use whatever it needs or whatever it requested, right? So how dependency injection works actually? The major example of dependency injection is we are going to learn using services only, because the services actually used widely in Angular, and those are kind of a good example of learning dependency injection. So let's create a service. Actually, I have already created it for you guys, you know to not waste much time. So as you can see, ng generate service and then common service we have created. So we have used this command ng generate service to create a common service, and as you can see, this is the service which is created for us, and this is nothing but a boilerplate code. So if you look at this class, right, so this is normal TypeScript class actually. Okay, so what is making this class as an injectable? So this injectable decorator is making this class as an injectable. So what do you mean by injectable, right? So injectable is nothing but a directive, and which actually defines the scope. Okay, so it actually defines the scope and makes this particular class as an injectable entity, so that whatever, like whoever is need, right, either a directive or a component class, whatever they need, we can directly provide them by injecting this particular class into their constructor. Okay, so what is mean by this provided in, right? So this is actually an option which actually gives three options for us as a value, right? So this provided in property defines the scope of this particular service, right? So if you look at the first option, so that is nothing but a root. So if you select this root, it actually scopes this particular service throughout entire application. Okay, so it actually creates a single instance of this service, and that particular single instance can be utilized throughout the application, throughout the particular component's lifecycle. Okay, so now whenever that component gets destroyed, right, its dependency will also gets destroyed. And then we have another application platform. So now consider, application within an applications, that is nothing but a micro front end applications. And an Angular application, if Angular application contains micro front end Angular applications within it, like as a child applications, right? So in that case, we can make this particular service or the particular class injectable, as a platform, right? So whenever we set this property provided in as a platform, it is available throughout the child applications as well. Now let's talk about the any. So any is nothing but it actually applies on the lazy loading modules. We are going to learn about eager loading and lazy loading very soon, but keep in mind that any option is actually works as same as root, but there is a catch, that because in a lazy loaded module, it creates a separate instance or a new instance to be available for that lazy loaded module. Okay, so as I actually told you about the root, it actually uses the single instance throughout the application, and any uses the multiple instances throughout the application, and then it works with the lazy loaded module as well. Okay, so this is how it has these three options. Now as we have created the class, the class as a service, right? Now let's try to inject this class. But before injecting this class, we have a requirement, right? So what kind of requirement we have? So we do have code written for this. We have a code of validations, okay, written for this email control, and we have created an async validator function in the last video. The same async validation validator function we are going to use inside a service, and then we will inject this service into this reactive forms component, and then we will use the same function to validate the email. So now the this function is available inside the utils ts file. So let's copy this function and add it into the services. So I'm adding this function inside the services. Now let's add the whatever the form dependencies we have over here. So let's add those over here as well, so that we should not get any issues. So now as we have our function ready to be used and we have a service ready to be injected, so let's inject this service inside this reactive form component. So now I need to import the common service. Okay, let me paste this. Okay, so now we have imported this common service, and now it's time to inject it. So where do we need to inject? We always inject injectables into constructor only. Okay, so now let's create a private property for this class or this component, give it a underscore, and then use whatever name you prefer to call this service. Okay, so now why did I wrote the underscore over here? It's because in real time we do have loads of variables created, but to identify which variable is for services, which variable is for observables. So for observable we give dollar, we append dollar, but for services or private variables we normally use underscore, so that we should identify which variable is private or which variable is public, or which is a type of observable or promises. Okay, so now I'll use this. So this dot underscore service dot check email exist, right? The same method we are now using from the service. Now let's see how it goes. Let me type in test@test.com. So as you can see, it checks and it says email exist, right? So this is how we are using services. So for that we have created a service, we have added we have learned the injectable decorator as well. We have learned all three options for this provided in property, and then how to make a particular class as an injectable entity. We just need to give the injectable directive on top of it. Okay, so that class will become as an injectable entity. Now we can inject this class everywhere wherever we need. We can import that class and we can inject that class as a dependency for the component where it requesting external resources. Now we are helping them by providing the resources whatever they need through injectable services, right? So this is how the concept is dependency injection and the injectable services, and injectable directive decorator, sorry. So these all three concepts are there. So I hope you have liked this video. If you like it, so just hit like, share with your friends. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Thanks all guys. Let's meet in next video.